Yeah. This is your boy, Tone DeShields II. You guys are locked in on your dose of chalk it up sports, where no matter if we win or if we lose, we just got to charge it to the game. Make sure y'all smash that like button. Make sure you guys are subscribed to the show. You guys know how we give it up here. We always start the show with some gratitude. You guys are amazing. You guys are dope. You guys always show a lot of love. You guys always invest in the channel with your super chats. You guys always smash that like button. The newcomers, make sure you guys follow suit. Make sure you guys are subscribed to the channel only and only if you like what you hear, like what you see, like what I'm thinking. Because I like to think that my perspective is my own. And the thing about this Philadelphia Eagles thing is they made so many moves that we can criticize and show love to, but it's all about how you perceive it, right? But overall, I'm glad you guys are here. Smash that like button. Welcome to the show, Dragon. I appreciate you. Smash that like button. Make sure you guys are subscribed to the show. When you guys invest in the channel, it takes the show to another level. It makes it that much easier for me to do this content thing. So I always appreciate you guys for being here. Let's get into some of the shout outs real quick though. My man James Jones, Crowley 26, what's going on? Troll King Gaming, Cody, G Dragon, Fitness Warrior, what's going on? I appreciate y'all. What else? My man Solomon Lord, Sue Chic. Fitness Warrior, funny. He said that man was too busy for us because of Drake and Kendrick was dropping hot fire all weekend. Bro, listen. Kendrick and Drake had me in a tizzy all weekend. They had me. Listen, I'm a hip hop fan, right? Like I love hip hop. I love rap. I'm an R&B head too, but like I really love hip hop. So when I saw all this stuff transpiring the way it was, I'm like, yo, this is the culture. This is hip hop. This is the gladiator sport. So I was super grateful to even experience that in real time. And Cody, you are absolutely right. Kendrick was on a warpath, and he did not take any prisoners. He was pillaging. He did not care to spare the kids, spare the woman. He was just out for blood. But overall, man, I appreciate you guys for being here. Obviously, we're going to talk about some Philadelphia Eagles, and maybe towards the back end of the show, if we got time, we may talk about some other things as well. It may not be sports related. The goal is to expand and grow this channel, right? And as the channel grows, I want you guys to throw out into the ether other concepts or other topics you guys may want me to address that may not be sports related. Right? Because I've been thinking about maybe expanding this channel to not only cover the Philadelphia Eagles in sports, but also maybe touching on what's going on in the culture, going on in hip hop, right? I tend to think that music and sports or hip hop and sports, I tend to believe those cultures, those fan bases, what those two pieces of content represent, I tend to believe that they intersect more than what we think. So, it's totally up to you guys, right? I'm always interested in touching on more content. I want to grow the show. My vision for this channel is really, really, it's really mad. I don't see Chalk It Up Sports as just being a sports content show, right? I look at shows like The Pivot, who not only talk to people in sports, but they also talk to people in entertainment and the culture. I look at I remember when I Am Athlete was doing better than what they were now. They were talking to more people outside of just sports. Obviously Gilly and Wallow, they do an amazing job covering sports, but also talking to people in hip hop, talking about the culture. I always feel like those two groups always intermingle. So and again, right, it's up to you guys. If you guys want more than just your Philadelphia Eagles fix, and again, we're never going to not talk about the Philadelphia Eagles. We're never not going to talk about football. But if you guys want more content that may be more so hip hop centric, more so entertainment or culture centric, reacting to things in the culture, like Shannon Sharp, right? He got Club Shay Shay. He don't just talk to athletes. He talks to entertainers, comedians, right? On a nightcap. Not only do they talk about sports, but they talk about relationships. They talk about things is going on in the culture, entertainment. So again, we're growing Chocolate Up Sports, and I have no idea what the ceiling is, but I know I view this as a situation where there is no ceiling. And the goal is to grow the channel as much as we possibly can. And you guys are a part of that journey. So I care about you guys and what you guys want to see. And you guys are the consumer. And I believe the paying customer is always right. Most of the time, 90% of the time. But overall, make sure you guys smash that like button. Make sure you guys are subscribed to the content. Subscribe to Chalk It Up Sports, where no matter if we win or we lose, we just got trust to the game. Crawley says, who won the beef? Well, I don't know if it's over yet. Drake dropped last night. He dropped the Heart Part 6, which was very disrespectful, but he did it. And I like the song. I could have did without them talking at the end, but he sounds a bit exasperated by everything that's been going on. But I personally got Kendrick up. I personally got Kendrick up right now. I think Kendrick I don't want to say put the nail in the coffin, but I think Kendrick made this a harder situation for Drake to get out of by dropping Not Like Us. That Not Like Us record, that might be the outside of Like That with Future and Metro. Not Like Us may be the biggest record to come out of this. And again, I know I mentioned that we were going to talk about stuff like this on the back end of the show, but I just want to touch on this one thing before we get too deep into the Eagles talk, right? I think Kendrick has created too many moments throughout this whole engagement. He's created too many moments. He's out executed Drake. He's out anthem Drake throughout this process. He's created more quotables, more viral moments. Like he didn't even play the social media game. You didn't see Kendrick posting nothing but the link to the music. So I got Kendrick up just because I feel like he's out executed Drake throughout the whole process. Now, from a pure musical perspective, from a pure Sonics perspective, I think neither party has put out bad music. I think Drake and Kendrick have been putting out heat the entire time, and I think that speaks to their high level of artistry. Now, full transparency, I'm really into Kendrick's music. I really rock with Kendrick heavy, and I like Drake's music, but I like Kendrick's music more than I like Drake's at this point. I want to be very transparent about that. I'm 29 years old. I grew up in the heyday, in the beginning of Kendrick and Drake becoming who they are today. They came up when I was in high school. They were at the beginning of their careers when I was in high school. So basically, I feel like I'm connected to these guys in terms of the trajectory of their careers, and I've been able to see both of those gentlemen evolve throughout the extent of their careers. And I personally, although I like some of Drake's music, I haven't been a fan of his evolution throughout his career. And then again, I'm not saying Drake is trash. Drake puts out stuff that I like. He puts out stuff that I don't like. Very simple. And that's not an indictment on him, or it shouldn't be an indictment on me. But there's a certain version of Drake that I prefer. And I just feel like he hasn't grown up, basically. That's my honest opinion. But Kendrick, I sense, I feel, I see the evolution in his music. But again, I don't want to spend too much time on that. I definitely want to get into football. I don't want to lose some of you guys here. We got 27 people tuned in on YouTube, 26 people tuned in on X. Make sure you guys continue to stay locked in. But I really appreciate you guys for locking in. But again, just full transparency, I do got Kendrick Lamar up, and I feel like, and I think that's just the unbiased perspective. I just think he's created more moments. He's out executed Drake this entire time, and that's all it is. I believe both Drake and Kendrick have put out great music this entire time. I don't think Drake has put out anything bad. I don't think Kendrick has put out anything bad either. I think both parties have been putting out great music regardless. And I think hip hop wins. I think the culture wins. I think people win. Now, obviously, some of the things that they've got into, some of the things that they've addressed, the allegations, very, very dark stuff. So I don't want to spend too much time on that. Excuse me. But yeah, let's get into the sports talk, right? You guys saw the thumbnail. You guys know what we're talking about here for the most part. We're going to be talking about Saquon Barkley. We're going to be talking about the 30-year anniversary of Jeffrey Lurie owning the Philadelphia Eagles. We're going to tap into whether or not the Philadelphia Eagles, under Jeffrey Lurie's ownership, have created something worthwhile. Is Jeffrey Lurie one of the better owners in the league? Is one Super Bowl in 30 years acceptable? But I want to start with the Saquon Barkley angle because they asked Howie Roseman about Saquon Barkley, as it pertains to his impact, his future impact on the Philadelphia Eagles, his talent, why they invested in him, and things of that nature. And overall, his mindset was basically, look, a guy like Saquon Barkley, he's the kind of player that you invest in. He's the kind of player that when you look at the talent, you say to yourself, "Oh, okay, that's a Hall of Fame talent player. That's a talented player that you have to absolve how you feel about the position and just think about what the player himself can provide to you." And I think when it comes to Saquon Barkley, the Philadelphia Eagles felt like his talent superseded the value. The value of his talent superseded the value of the running back position. Now, the running back position has been going through a very turbulent transition. The running back position used to be a position that people invested highly in. There was a point in time where it was all about running backs and defense. Now it's all about quarterbacks, wide receivers, offense, offensive line, So the running back has kind of lost its luster over the past several years. But this current offseason that we're in has kind of rocked the boat in terms of where running backs or how running backs are seen these days. And I think that's important to acknowledge because it was really hard over the past several years for running backs to really get paid. Even if it almost seemed as if you weren't a top 2, top 3 running back, teams didn't want to invest in you. And even if you were of that ilk, teams questioned whether or not you still had tread on the tires. So the running back position is a position that gets destroyed in the long term. Running backs, it's so hard for running backs to have long-term careers now, especially with more soft tissue injuries. You're seeing more tears and rupture. You're seeing a lot of soft tissue injuries happening a lot, and these running backs are being used obviously not only in the running game these days, and now you got to be able to impact the passing game. You got to be able to block. You have to make sure you check way more boxes in this current NFL as a running back position, especially if you want to get paid. And they run those guys into the dirt, and then they move on from you and bring in a rookie to ask you to do the same thing. Because a lot of these organizations feel like that most of these running backs are products of the offensive line, and I don't think they're wrong. I feel like if you have I feel like there's rare instances where there's a running back that can get theirs in spite of the offensive line, and Saquon Barkley throughout his career has been that kind of player. He's been the kind of player that has produced at a very, very high level despite the lack of offensive line help, despite the lack of high-level quarterback play. And he's going to get that in Philadelphia, playing behind Jordan Mailata, Landon Dickerson, Cam Jurgens, potentially Tyler Steen or Trevor Keegan or Matt Hennessy. And then you got Lane Johnson at the right tackle spot. This is going to be the best offensive line by far that Saquon Barkley has played behind or ran behind, rather. And then the quarterback position, I think it goes without saying. Jalen Hurts is going to be the best quarterback that Saquon Barkley has ever played with. Now, granted, it's low-hanging fruit. The bar isn't really set too high when you think about Eli Manning on the back end of his career, Daniel Jones. Obviously, he's not a player that we are even remotely threatened by. So Saquon Barkley, I'll take it a step further. He hasn't even played with a team as talented as the team he's going to play with this season. He hasn't played with any team. The Giants were never, ever as talented as the Philadelphia Eagles, especially over the past handful of years. It's never been the case, or at least through Saquon Barkley's tenure through New York. So when you think about it from that perspective, Saquon Barkley being able to play with A.J. Brown, Devontae Smith, Dallas Goedert, that offensive line, Jalen Hurts, and then you think about adding in Paris Campbell, Devontae Parker, depending on who makes the roster and who becomes wide receiver 3, maybe Anias Smith, maybe Johnny Wilson. I doubt it's going to be him. He's an outside receiver, if you ask me, but that's neither here nor there. This is the best situation that Saquon Barkley has been in and probably will ever be in, because the Philadelphia Eagles will always continue to invest in the roster. They will always continue to invest on the offense side of the ball. The Philadelphia Eagles have proven to you that they are not afraid to spend the money. It's just a matter of who to spend the money on. And can they validate it? Can they rationalize investing the money into the player? And overall, like as Blunt said, the overall roster is going to create a lot of opportunities for Saquon Barkley. You know, Miles Sanders had a career year, his final year in Philadelphia, right? DeAndre Swift, same thing. And by the way, I'm trying to eliminate from our vocabulary. So excuse the pacing in which I speak, because I'm trying to again eliminate from our vocabulary. I want to speak with a certain pace that allows me to eliminate that. But Saquon Barkley, when you think about what DeAndre Swift was able to do career year with the Philadelphia Eagles, when you think about what Miles Sanders has or was able to do with the Philadelphia Eagles in his final season, or just in general throughout his time with the Philadelphia Eagles, Miles Sanders has regularly been a player that's gotten over 1,000 yards from scrimmage in Philadelphia. I think throughout his 4 years in Philadelphia, Miles Sanders got 2 years or 3 years at least with over 1,000 yards from scrimmage. I want to make sure I got that right. Give me a moment. So Miles Sanders, throughout his 4 years in Philadelphia, 3 out of the 4 years, he's gotten over 1,000 yards from scrimmage, which is rushing yards and receiving yards. And his best season rushing, he was able to put up 1,269 rushing yards with 11 touchdowns. So overall, the Philadelphia Eagles put Saquon Barkley in his most opportune situation throughout his career. Jason 18, what's going on? Welcome to the show, Davon Tyree, my man S. Blunt, Steve Ike, Fitness Roofer. Appreciate y'all for being here. Y'all always, y'all know it's love. Y'all know how we get down over here. Now, like Howie Roseman says, Saquon Barkley is a very unique player in terms of the skill set, the build, the physical traits, the charisma, the team first attitude. Let's be frank about this. He wanted to stay in New York, but they didn't want to pay him, and he even settled for pennies on a dollar in terms of the final year that he got paid with the New York Giants. But he finally got the payday he was looking for. And one of the things he kept saying was, I'm not looking to reset the market. I just want to get paid fairly. I'll say that again. Saquon Barkley was never looking to reset the market. He strictly just wanted to get paid fairly. So right now, when I think about the Philadelphia Eagles and the contract they signed with Saquon Barkley, he signed a 3-year, $37.75 million deal with with $26 million in total guarantees, with an average salary of $12.58 million. Now he has an opportunity to make more money. I think he has an opportunity to make about $45 million in total, if I'm not mistaken. And that all remains to be seen, of course. But Saquon Barkley is 27 years old. He's going to be 27 when the season starts. He's been a very productive player in the NFL. He's entering year 7. Former first-round pick. Like I said, 3 years, $37.75 million. Average salary of $12.5 million. $26 million in guarantees. So I ask you guys this. Knowing everything that we know and how we laid this out, is Saquon Barkley a player worth betting on? Is Saquon Barkley a player that we don't mind the Philadelphia Eagles making that type of investment in, even knowing that he's a running back? Because again, the running back position has not gotten the love that it deserves. So often we see organizations cut ties with running backs that have given them everything and refuse not to pay them, and would much rather draft a guy or maybe allow a younger guy who's currently on the roster to take the reps, because in their mind, I don't want to invest in a position that I'm not going to get my full money, get my full money's worth out of. And a lot of teams will say to themselves, I'd much rather invest in the O-line and then put anybody back there and expect my O-line to create at least an additional 3 or 4 yards push. And that's what makes the Philadelphia Eagles so special. Because I think the Philadelphia Eagles O-line easily creates an additional 3 yards of cushion for running backs. And that goes a long way. If it's 1st and 10, I think the Philadelphia Eagles, if it's 1st and 10, and you decide to run a running play, right? I firmly believe the Philadelphia Eagles O-line makes that 1st and 8 or 1st and 7. That's how good they are. That's how good Lane Johnson is. That's how good Landon Dickerson is. Jordan Mailata. I'm of the firm belief that the Philadelphia Eagles offensive line, when it comes to a running play, they make 1st and 10 looks like 1st and 8 because of how much push they're able to get, because of the big bodies, the amount of that offensive line altogether weighs well over a ton. That's a ton of pressure being imposed on the opposing defensive line. As Blunt says something very interesting. He says, we need to use his catching ability, but Barkley creates opportunities for our overall offense. I agree with that. I think Barkley just being there adds an entire dimension to your offense that likely was not there originally. Now, I am one of those people that will die on this hill. I do not believe the Philadelphia Eagles utilized DeAndre Swift the most they could. I don't believe the Philadelphia Eagles utilized DeAndre Swift to the extent in which they could. I feel like he could have did a lot more damage in the passing game. I feel like they could have did a better job at creating rushing opportunities. I just felt like they deviated from DeAndre Swift way too much or way too often, especially when he was getting going. Now, I won't dismiss the holes in DeAndre Swift's game at the time. He's not a good pass blocker. He doesn't really run with that much power. He's not necessarily known to fall forward no matter what's going on. At times he can try to avoid the contact and break things out. It's kind of what Deuce Staley was kind of getting on him for when he was in Detroit. At times, Swift can overthink the situation and not take what's there. There are chinks in his game. There are kinks in his game, but I still believe they could have did a better job at using him. And I personally liked DeAndre Swift at Philadelphia, but I ultimately knew that he was going to be a rental, and I didn't think the Philadelphia Eagles were even going to invest the kind of money into him that maybe he was looking for. Now, granted, he got a good payday from the Bears. I think the Bears are paying Swift about an $8 or $9 million salary, if I'm not mistaken. I think they're paying him between $7 and $9 million per season. So, and he has some pretty good guaranteed money. I think Swift is being guaranteed right now a grand total of 20 million or 19 million. I want to make sure I got that right here. But DeAndre Swift was very productive for the Philadelphia Eagles when given the opportunity. Okay, so DeAndre Swift signed a 3-year, $24 million deal with the Chicago Bears with an average salary of $8 million per season, and they guaranteed him $15.3 million. So that's not bad. That's not bad at all. 2 years of the 3-year contract is essentially guaranteed. And I guess they'll decide in year 3 how they want to do it. It's the same thing with the Philadelphia Eagles and Saquon Barkley. The first 2 years, in essence, or in theory, are guaranteed, and they'll figure out what they'll do in the long term entering year 3. And by that point, he'll be turning 30 at some point. But I think Saquon Barkley is the kind of player that you do bet on when you feel like you're that close. Now, full transparency, you guys know I like to keep it funky here. And I like to acknowledge my previous opinions, even if they've changed or even if they've stayed the same. When the Philadelphia Eagles signed Saquon Barkley, I don't want to say I had a problem with it, but I was curious about where their priorities lied. Because I was under the impression that the largest investment in the offseason needed to go to the defense. Because the defense was the worst side of the ball on the field for the Philadelphia Eagles. That defense was so putrid. That defense was Swiss cheese. They weren't able to stop the run in the second half of the season. They were getting passed on left and right. They did not get substantial linebacker play. Everybody, the coaching from top to bottom, the Philadelphia Eagles defense was finito. They were just not good, flat out. So my mindset was going to the offseason, double down and invest in your defense. Now, they did invest in the defense, but they didn't invest in the defense in the way that I thought they would. I was under the impression that they would maybe spend some money on linebacker finally, especially knowing what we know and seeing what we saw. I thought they would maybe try to buck their trend or try to do something outside of the box or different that could help the defense side of the ball. Maybe invest big money into one of these linebackers, or maybe invest or make a move to bring in a big-time DB. But instead of doing that, instead of investing big money into that linebacker room or DB room, instead they decided to invest in Saquon Barkley at running back. I think that was their first move. I mean, outside of the Bryce Huff signing on the edge. I thought, or their first move rather, was bringing in Saquon Barkley, basically. And that one threw us for a loop. Because we heard the rumors. We heard the hearsay. And the reality is, despite the rumors, despite the hearsay, I still didn't think a guy like Saquon Barkley would end up in Philadelphia. because I felt like that move not only went against the trend of the NFL, it completely would have been off the reservation for the Philadelphia Eagles to invest that kind of money in that position. But like Harvey Roseman said, they felt like you can't pass up a guy of that ilk. You can't pass up a guy with that level of talent just because you have a process. And I spoke about this on previous platforms that I was on, that there's going to come a point in time where you have to say, fuck your process and say, I'm trying to win. There's going to be moments where you have to deviate from the script. We all watch comedy. We've all seen comedy movies, and we've all seen stand-up comedy shows. We've all watched sketch comedy and Living Color, Saturday Night Live, Mad TV. And what makes those shows, what makes comedy so amazing is not the stuff that's written down. It's the stuff that you come up with on the fly. It's the stuff you do that's not in the script that makes the content or the comedy worth watching or worth hearing. So when it comes to the Philadelphia Eagles, although they have a process, although they have a script that they do follow, and they tend to lean on it and rely on it, I felt like this was a moment where they felt like, screw our process, screw our trends. This is a player that will take us over the top, at the very least, offensively. This is a player that you can't just ignore when he brings in the level of talent, the physical traits, the versatility that he provides. You can't pass up a player like that can take so much pressure off of your quarterback. So when you weigh it all out from that perspective, you say to yourself, okay, I get it. I think also that move, like I mentioned, the quarterback, right? I think Saquon Barkley's arrival here was a clear indication that they are trying their hardest to spare Jalen Hurts the physical trauma he's been experiencing over the past couple years. Now, granted, he was relatively healthy the whole year, didn't miss a game. Now, me personally, I feel like he was dealing with something throughout the season, but he was overcompensating and tried to play through it. But I think the Philadelphia Eagles feel like if they're going to have Jalen Hurts for the long haul, if they're going to try to maximize his value, they can't keep ripping and running him. I've also been of the mindset that I want Jalen Hurts to play Jalen Hurts football. I want Jalen Hurts to play his version of football, and whatever that is for that given game, for that given season. So, although initially I had my questions about bringing in Saquon Barkley, I was able to make sense of it. And overall, it's better to have him on our team than to have to go against him, because he's a hard player to game plan for. And he's going to be even more difficult to game plan for now that he's playing for or playing with the Philadelphia Eagles. And you're going to have to worry about Jalen Hurts. You're going to have to worry about A.J. Brown, Devontae Smith, Dallas Goedert, that offensive line. Saquon Barkley definitely makes the Philadelphia Eagles offense one of the hardest, if not the hardest, offense to stop in the NFL. And that goes without saying. S. Blunt says, do you think emphasis on offense played a part? I'm glad you brought that up, S. Blunt, because I also think the changing of the rules, where the NFL is going, I think the Philadelphia Eagles, along with a ton of other teams in the NFL, I think they realize that as much as you want to have a good defense, the rules don't allow my defense to be great. The rules allow for my defense to be good, but they don't allow for my defense to be elite or great, because you can't put hands and feet on these guys. What makes, in my opinion, what makes a defense great or what makes a defense elite is not only the talent that they have, but also the level of fear and apprehension that they instill or invoke in the opposition. In this new NFL, it's impossible to have or near impossible to have that muddy, from the gutter, nasty defense. It's hard because they don't allow you to touch these players. You can't deliver hard hits anymore. The NFL has eliminated the hit stick. Y'all follow me? The NFL has eliminated or disabled the hit stick. The hit stick was one of the most beautiful things they added to Madden. And the NFL has, or they're trying to eliminate the use of the hit stick. They're trying to eliminate the use of how physical a player can be. So because of the transition or the evolution of the rules in the NFL, I think a lot of these organizations see that and are trying to exercise some level of foresight and are going to start building their rosters in accordance to where the rules are going. And I think that goes to what S. Blunt is asking. The emphasis on offense. I think it played a huge part, S. Blunt. I really do. Thank you for investing in the channel, my man. You already know how we get busy. I appreciate you, my guy. Thank you. So, yes, Saquon Barkley. The question is, or was, is Saquon Barkley a player worth betting on, despite the injury history? Now, Saquon Barkley's injury history is fascinating. So let's just start from 2023 and work our way back. In October of 2023, Barkley suffered from an elbow sprain. He hyperextended his left elbow in week 7. He didn't miss any significant time. In September of 2023, he had a pedal ankle sprain, grade 2, which led him which led him to leave the week 2 Cardinals game near the end. And he did return in week 6 versus the Bills. In December 2022, he had a cervical neck stinger. 2021 of October, another pedal ankle sprain. October 10th, 2021, pedal ankle sprain, grade 1. September 2020, knee MCL sprain, knee ACL tear. That's the big injury. September 2019, pedal ankle sprain. August 2018, thigh hamstring sprain or pull. September 2015, pedal ankle sprain. November 2016, pedal ankle sprain. So he's had a handful of ankle injuries. But with the evolution of the rules, where the hip drop tackle, like Troll King has mentioned, with the hip drop tackle being removed or banned from the game, does that extend Saquon Barkley's career? Could that limit the damage he may suffer on the lower extremities? Entirely possible. Entirely possible. But I think overall, despite the injury history that he's experienced throughout his career, when Saquon Barkley is healthy, he is a force. And that's the kind of player that you say to yourself, I'll roll the dice. But you only roll that dice, in my opinion, if you're close or if you feel like you're close. And then that begs the question, do we believe the Philadelphia Eagles are close? How close are they? In terms of the NFC, are the Philadelphia Eagles in the top 3 as far as contenders? Top 5? Now, a lot has to transpire. A lot of things have to take shape still. But I think the Philadelphia Eagles, in terms of competing and contending, excuse me, I think, Crawley, I'm asking, are they close to being able to win it all? Because I mentioned, you only make the move for a Saquon Barkley if you feel like you're close. If you feel like that's the kind of player that takes you over the top. But then, again, just limiting it to the NFC, where do we put the Philadelphia Eagles in terms of the NFC? Because I don't worry about the AFC until it's time to worry about the AFC. The Philadelphia Eagles got to run through the NFC first. You feel what I'm saying? So in the NFC, and Crowley, you're totally right. A lot of things have to transpire, right? I mentioned we still got to figure out how this thing takes shape, especially on the defensive side of the ball. But if again, just playing the hypothetical game, and it's not really something I like to do, but it's the offseason, why not? Let's just say the defense improves to a level that works for us. Now, notice I didn't give you anything specific because we all have our individual philosophies or our all individual perspectives about how we expect this defense to look. So just use your own POV, your own expectation. If the Philadelphia Eagles defense plays to a level that satisfies you, if the Philadelphia Eagles defense plays to a level that satisfies you, are the Philadelphia Eagles the biggest threat to come out of the NFC? Are the Philadelphia Eagles top 2 in the NFC, top 3? Where do you put them? Top 4? That's the experiment I want you guys to have. If the Eagles defense plays up to your standard, and I'm not being specific because everyone has their own standard when it comes to this defense, and everyone has their own belief system and how they think that defense should look. So if they play up to your standard individually, and knowing what we know about that offense, should the Philadelphia Eagles be the most feared team in the NFC? Or one of the most feared teams in the NFC? If I'm going to answer my own question, I say yes. As a matter of fact, if I'm answering my own question a step further, if the Eagles defense plays up to my expectation or even exceeds it, and that offense does exactly what I expect them to do, the Philadelphia Eagles should be the favorite to come out of the NFC. It should be Niners or Eagles, and everybody else you argue about. Now, we're going to have some people shoot back and say, well, how can you have them as a favorite in the NFC where they had that major collapse? That defense still is an unknown. What will Vic Fangio provide? You're depending on some rookies to make big impacts. All that kind of stuff, right? Fair enough. All fair conversations to have. But that's not the conversation I want to have right now. The conversation I want to have is if this defense performs to the level that satisfies you, should the Philadelphia Eagles be the most feared team to come out of the NFC or one of? And I say yes. And that's the hill I'm willing to die on. Excuse me, you guys. Allergies been bothering me. So, let's see here. Cody says the defense needs to be between 9 to 15. So basically, a playoff level defense. I agree. I think the Philadelphia Eagles defense, at bare minimum, needs to be ranked 14th or higher. That's my bar. Excuse me. That's my bar. I believe the Philadelphia Eagles, their defense needs to be at minimum ranked 14th or higher. My man tried Integrity Inc. He says top 15 defense is great for a young defense. Offense got to be top 10, top 3. I think that's a reasonable. I think that perspective is pretty spot on. For a young defense, you got young players that's on pretty core positions: corner, DT, safety, linebacker. The Philadelphia Eagles defense got younger for real. But I think for them to, and again, being ranked top 15, being ranked 15th or 14th, I'm splitting hairs, right? But in my humble opinion, I think the Philadelphia Eagles, their defense needs to be ranked 14th or higher. 14th or higher. Because only 14 teams get into the playoffs. 14 teams get into the playoffs. 7 from the NFC, 7 from the AFC. So I'm just going by the math. If you have a top 14 defense, that means you have a playoff level defense. Make sense? But the offense, I think the Eagles offense, if they're not, I'll even throw some bell and I'll say, if the Philadelphia Eagles don't have a top 5 offense, it's a disappointment. The Philadelphia Eagles should have a top 5 offense, bare minimum. Bare minimum. With all that talent and the kind of coaching we expect, the Saquon Barkley addition is huge. That offense should be top 5 minimum. And that's just me being reasonable. But in my heart of hearts, I'm with Integrity. Top 3, they got to be. My man Cody with the $5 investment. Thank you so much, my friend. You know, I always appreciate you when you show love like this. He says, I think our pass defense needs to be much higher and even higher than run defense. Postseason play relies on I hear what you're saying, right? I hear what you're saying for sure. You definitely want your pass defense to be legit. You definitely do. But I don't want to overlook the run defense, and I don't even think that's what you're saying either, Cody. I don't even think you're saying, oh, just don't worry about the run defense. But I think all you're saying is that pass defense needs to be something we can trust. That pass defense needs to be something that we can say to ourselves, all right, I can roll with that. The run defense, I expect it to be better naturally. But to your point, Cody, I definitely think the pass defense has to take a huge leap. The Eagles had, I think the Eagles had the worst passing defense in the league last year. The worst, if not the worst. Maybe they were 31st or 30th. They were the worst. So going from the worst to being top 15 or top 12 at that position will be amazing. But the postseason, man, the one thing you don't want to happen though in the postseason, you don't want to get ran on. You don't want to get ran on. So you can slice it and split it up however you want. But the bottom line is this Philadelphia Eagles defense needs to be top 14. Flat out. Flat out. Thank you again, Cody, for donating to the channel. Integrity says, I don't know about that. The run-in playoffs increases a lot with the weather being cold. See, now we're cooking with fish grease. I like this opposing thought by Integrity. And I even like his angle. He said, I don't know about that. He brings up a good point with the cold weather games, with the weather possibly being terrible. And likely the NFC is going to run through Philadelphia. If everything bodes well, it could run through San Fran. It could. You know what? This is interesting. Because when you think about the top teams in the NFC or it could run through Lambeau, you never know. You never know. But I like I like how Tri-Integrity is thinking though. But I also like how Cody's thinking. But I think overall, regardless, I think that we all agree that this defense has to be better. Huh. Cody says pass needs to be top 20, run needs to be top 10. I'm gonna be honest with you, Cody. I would take it a step further. And Cody, I like where you're going with this because all the teams that are at the top in the NFC right now, they're either dome teams or warm weather teams. Detroit, dome. Dallas, dome. San Fran, West Coast, warm weather. The only places in the NFC that you may have to travel to that could be cold is Philly and Green Bay. The Vikings, dome team. You know what I mean? So Cody, I understand what you're saying, but I would take it a step further and say I think the pass defense needs to be top 15 and the run defense needs to be top 10. That's what I think. I think the pass defense, top 20 is not good enough. Top 20 is not good enough for me. Top 20 is not good enough. I think top 15 is the target for passing defense. Top 10, the target for run defense. My man S. Blunt says, compare this roster to the 2022 Super Bowl roster. Very good question. Very, 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 very interesting, right? So let's do it together. Let's pull up the rosters. Let's pull up the rosters here. Give me a second. So, all right, let's go to ESPN. This is probably better. All right. Let's see here. All right, let's pull up the 2024 roster first as it stands right now. You know what? No, let's go right to 2022 because we know what the 2024 roster looks like for the most part. Let me change the archive dates here. All right. All right, here we go. All right. So here's the 2022-2023 Super Bowl roster, okay? Thanks again, S. Blunt, for the investment, my friend. I appreciate it. So this is the roster for 2022. And some of these guys obviously aren't here. But anyway, here we are. So on offense, you had obviously Jalen Hurts. Sorry. You obviously had Jalen Hurts, A.J. Brown, Devontae Smith, Britton Covey, Quez Watkins, Zach Pascal, Mailata Dillard, Landon Dickerson, Jason Kelsey, Cam Jurgens, Isaac Seumalo, Josh Sills, Lane Johnson, Jack Driscoll, Dallas Goedert, Jack Stoll, Grant Calcaterra, Miles Sanders, Kenny Gainwell, Boston Scott. And then you go to the defensive side. You had Josh Sweat, Brandon Graham, Robert Quinn, Fletcher Cox, and Dominic Sue, Linval Joseph, Jordan Davis, Javon Hargrave, Milton. Damn, that D line was crazy. Fuck. That D line was crazy. Javon Hargrave, Milton Williams, Hassan Reddick, P. Johnson, K. Johnson, TJ Edwards, Christian Ellis, Kaiser White, N'Kobe Dean, Darius Slay, CJ Garner-Johnson, Marcus Epps, James Bradbury, Avonte Maddox, Josiah Scott, Reed Blankenship. This was the roster. And obviously the offense hasn't really changed that much. So let's transition to the 2024 roster, right? And obviously it's going to be more people because they haven't gotten the cut downs. But let's go to the 2024 roster now. Now, this is who we have in 2024 on offense. Obviously, Hurts, Devontae Smith, A.J. Brown, Paris Campbell, Devontae Parker. You bring in Anias Smith and Johnny Wilson. You still got Brenton Covey, and obviously you see the other wide receivers on here. Mailata, Landon Dickerson, Cam Jurgens, Tyler Steen, Lane Johnson, Mekhi Becton, Dylan McMahon, Trevor Keegan, Matt Hennessy. At tight end, you got Dallas Goedert, Grant Calcaterra, Alberto, CJ Uzoma, Hurts, Kenny Pickett, Tanner McKee. Running back, Saquon Barkley, Kenny Gainwell, Will Shipley. The significant difference on the offense is obviously adding Saquon Barkley, losing Miles Sanders. You draft Tyler Steen and Trevor Keegan, and you bring in Matt Hennessy as well for that interior offensive line. Cam Jurgens elevates the starting center. You lose Jason Kelsey. You lost Isaac Seumalo. So you lost your center and your right guard over the course of 2 seasons. And you replaced them with obviously younger guys who are ready to play. Cam Jurgens obviously will be the center. Tyler Steen is still competing for that right guard spot. If you ask me, he's competing directly with Trevor Keegan and Matt Hennessy. That's my humble opinion. If you want, you probably could throw Dylan McMahon in there, but I think they like him at center. And then obviously Lane Johnson, and you got Mekhi Becton backing him up, which is huge. So I think the offensive line arguably has more depth, or even maybe I think they've restored the depth on the offensive line, especially on the interior. But if you include Mekhi Becton in that draft day haul, remember he's a former first-round pick, a player that has battled injuries early in his career and hasn't been able to sustain any consistent play because of that. But when he's on, he's on, and when he's healthy, and when he's stringing the games together, he can be trusted. But you bring him into Philadelphia where he doesn't have to be the guy. He doesn't have to be your starting right tackle. He has an opportunity to get healthy, spare his body, and maybe rejuvenate and restore his career. Maybe you never know. Maybe Lane Johnson gets hurt and Mekhi Becton comes in, plays a stellar game or two, and he's able to restore his career. Jason A-Team says, Fitness Warrior says, Tone, did you realize that both of the teams that lost to the Chiefs in the Super Bowl fumbled and had a mistake on special teams? Yeah. You can't play the Chiefs and make mistakes. You can't play them. I mean, it's very straightforward with the Chiefs, man. You can't make mistakes. You can't create more opportunities for them. And that's how and that's what happens. the Chiefs are a good team, but when you beat yourself, you're making it that much easier for them. Jason A-Team says, when we drafted Jordan Davis, I was in prison watching it. And the first thing Mel Copper said is in the championship game, he took plays off. My celly was roasting me because my celly was roasting me because of it. I'll never forget. Well, first and foremost, Jason, welcome home, my friend. I'm glad. Welcome home, my friend. Glad you're glad you have your freedom back. And I'm glad that you're here and you're associated with Chalk It Up Sports. I really appreciate you. Again, unfortunate circumstances, but they don't make us, nor do they define us. And it's awesome to see you as a free man, my friend. Now let's go to the defensive side of the ball. This is where it gets interesting here. Because if you ask me, at face value, you see Milton Williams, Jordan Davis, Jalen Carter, Bryce Huff, Brandon Graham. You drafted Jalyx Hunt, Nakobe Dean, Jeremiah Trotter. You drafted Zach Bond, Devin White at linebacker. You brought in Oren Burks as well. Josh Sweat is there. Nolan Smith, Patrick Johnson, and Teron Jackson are back. Patrick Johnson and Teron Jackson, excuse me. Darius Slay is here. CJ Gardner-Johnson makes his return. You got Reed Blankenship, Quinyon Mitchell, Cooper DeJean. James Bradbury is still on the roster, but I think he gets cut. You brought Avonte Maddox back. You still got Mekhi Gardner, Sidney Brown, Kelly Ringo. You got a lot of young guys on this team. This defense has gotten significantly younger from 2022 to 2024. This defense has gotten significantly younger. So, does that concern us? Does the youth factor on this defense? I think it's so funny how Gooby said, damn, bro, this defense looks way worse when you put it on the screen. And then Forrest Hill says right after that, Tone, this defense is stacked. Isn't it fascinating how different people see this roster differently? Isn't it fascinating how two different supporters, two different people have two totally different perspectives about how this defense is? And not only different, they're on two different sides of the spectrum. Forrest Hill says, Tone, this defense is stacked. Gooby says, damn, bro, this defense looks way worse when you put it on the screen. So that begs the question, where are the major concerns for you guys, right? And my man Weapon X is in the building. The gut brother Weapon X, I appreciate you, my guy. You already know it's love. Y'all already know it's love. Just let me know when you need me. We're going to make it happen, my guy. He said, not going to lie, on paper, defense look ass. Y'all crazy, man. We all remember. Hey, listen, Crowley, real quick. To your point, Crowley, about making mistakes. Oh, I've made mistakes. And I dodged a bullet. I've dodged bullets figuratively and literally. We've all made a mistake. We've all made mistakes, my friend. Trust me. It's man, when I was in college, it was situations that I was a part of that my life could be very different. I'm gonna be honest. Y'all know I keep it funky with y'all. Y'all my people. When I was in college, if y'all knew what I knew, my life could have been very different. So overall, like Crowley said, man, mistakes are mistakes, man. Some of us dodge it. Some of us, aren't so lucky. But again, I think it's so fascinating the difference in perspectives about this team. The POVs are very different. Jay says, I like the defense too, but I am worried about the scheme. Okay, break that down, Jay. Break that down. Are you concerned about the player's ability to grasp it? Are you concerned about the bend but don't break attitude? Are you concerned about if teams can figure it out or not? What exactly are you guys? And again, I'm not questioning you guys more so. I'm just curious, rather, because I have my own concerns about the defense. Sometimes the bend but don't break mentality fails you, especially in big moments. When you're playing some of these elite quarterbacks, it can get a little tricky. But also, and tell me what you guys think about this. Although that bend but don't break attitude can be frustrating to watch, I think the reality is in this new NFL, when you can't really get physical at the line of scrimmage like that, or you can't get physical in the open field, the DBs barely can touch the receivers. They got defenseless receiver. They got they call holding and pass interference at an all-time high. I mean, it's very difficult to play defense and be physical. It's very difficult to have a physical defense in this NFL. It's very difficult. So is it fair to assume or fair to surmise that the bend but don't break nature of the defense works for this new NFL? Is that a reasonable assertion? Because I would say sure. Because they don't allow you guys or allow the players on defense to get physical. It's something to think about. Forrest Hill says it's year one under a new coach, despite Fangio being here as a consultant in 2022. Losing Cox could be a problem. I do agree with that. I think losing Fletcher Cox is going to be something that it's going to take us some time to get used to. Jay says, I am concerned that teams have figured it out and the Birds will have trouble beating good teams. You know what's funny? There are more teams that do the bend but don't break mentality than you think. It's like 75% of the NFL. It's like, seriously, a lot of these teams have deployed the bend but don't break attitude. Gooby says, I just think getting Trotter Jr. was a lateral move. And that's interesting. That's interesting, Gooby. I like the way you described that, lateral. Because how much better is he than Nakobe Dean? Now, granted, we don't really know what Nakobe Dean is, if we're being completely honest with ourselves. But let me finish your take here. Gooby says, I just think getting Trotter Jr. was a lateral move, and we're going to kick ourselves in the ass for taking Jalyx over a linebacker in round 3. Jeremiah Trotter, just like Dean, is small and slow. Nostalgia blinds us. Well, here's the thing, man. I understand your perspective, but I'm not going to kill the Philadelphia Eagles for nostalgia for this reason only. They drafted him in the 5th round. You know, it wasn't like they reached for him, if that makes sense. Now, I will agree, I wanted them to go linebacker in the 3rd. I don't have nothing against Jalyx Hunt, but I would have loved for them to get one of those highly sought-after linebackers. That was my perspective. So I'm with you in terms of choosing Jalyx Hunt over a linebacker in round 3. That could very well come back to be a mistake. It could. It's possible. Don't want to dismiss that. But I'm not going to jump out the window and say that nostalgia blinded the Eagles with Trotter Jr. because they didn't reach for him. I would agree with you if they drafted him over Edgerrin Cooper or something, or if they drafted him over the guy from what was the linebacker from, was it North Carolina, or is it Cedric Gray or something like that? I can't remember. But they drafted him in the 5th round, and he was projected to go higher than that. So I'm not going to kill them for nostalgia for drafting Jeremiah Trotter Jr. in the 5th round. You know, it's a 5th round pick. So I'm not going to kill them for saying, you know what, let's give Jeremiah Trotter Jr. a shot. He did put up great college numbers, though. He was very productive in college. He was arguably, maybe easily, the best defensive player, or the most. Cedric Gray. Thank you, Gooby. Cedric Gray. I mean, it's on record that Jeremiah Trotter Jr. was the most dominant force on that Clemson defense. He was the most versatile force. He was everywhere. PFT was good, my guy. So it wasn't like he was like the 3rd or 4th best player on his defense. He was the defense. He was the lifeblood. He was the energizer bunny on that defense in Clemson. And he was a stat sheet stuffer. Interceptions, sacks, pass deflections, forced fumbles. He was everywhere. He played fast, sideline to sideline. A very, very fast, twitchy player. So I don't think yeah, Gooby, right? You know, I don't think I'm going to kill the Philadelphia Eagles for drafting Jeremiah Trotter Jr. in the 5th round. And besides, that's the part of the draft where you start to, you know, take some risk. You draft guys based off of traits. Maybe a guy has a last name and you say, okay, he's that guy's kid. Maybe there's something in there. You know. Now, a lot of people had a problem with the Eagles choosing Dejean over a linebacker. Gooby says he was the leader for sure. I think I may have a little PTSD. Yo, Gooby, first of all, your YouTube name is hilarious, for one. But for two, PTSD is hilarious. That's crazy. But I'm curious about Jeremiah Trotter Jr. I'm very curious. Fitness Warrior says Dean is not slow like Trotter Jr. That's why they got rid of TJ Edwards. He was a great tackler, but he was slow. Why do you think we signed Devin White? See, here's the thing. Are we underestimating Trotter's speed? They said he was a fast player on that Clemson defense. Let me see something. Let me see something. So, all right, listen to this. Wow. It says here, Trotter Jr. ran a 4.640. Now, granted, you're not going to be running in a straight line the entire time. What I think you guys may be onto something. What startles me about Trotter Jr. is the shuttle and 3-cone speed. I mean, it's very, very mediocre at best. Very mediocre at best. Let me ask you guys this, though. Hear me out on this, right? And I want to get y'all thoughts on this. This is going to be very key here. So follow me here. Let's see if I can pull this up here. A player that the scouts and the draft experts compared to Jeremiah Trotter Jr. was a player out of Missouri by the name of Nick Bolton. Now, I don't know if all you guys are familiar. I would imagine you guys are, though, especially if you're football fans and you kept up with the draft. Nick Bolton right? Former Missouri linebacker, 6 feet, 200. And, well, the NFL has him at 5'11", 237, right? Nick Bolton was drafted in the second round at pick 58. Now, hear me out on this, right? The NFL Draft Buzz, I rely on them a lot. NFL Draft Buzz had Nick Bolton running a 4.640 during his draft process. And it just so happens that Jeremiah Trotter Jr. also ran a 4.640. Also, during the draft process, Nick Bolton was measured at 6 feet, 232 pounds. Now, the NFL has him at 5'11", but let's just say 6 feet, right? At the pre-draft process, Nick Bolton was measured at 6 feet, 232 pounds. Jeremiah Trotter Jr. is measured at 6 feet, 228 pounds. They both ran a 4.640. Now, obviously, all those things I mentioned, there's more that goes into a player than his 40-yard dash and his height and his weight, right? But that's the player that draft experts compared Jeremiah Trotter Jr. to. So let me ask you guys this. Nick Bolton, now granted, in 2023, he did have some injuries, only played in 8 games. Only played in 8 games in 2023. He got hurt, but he was very healthy for 2021 and 2022. Very healthy. Sorry, you guys, excuse me. So, if Jeremiah Trotter Jr. can be what Nick Bolton is for the Chiefs, is that a win? Because I want to put it in perspective. Nick Bolton is a player that's been very productive for the Chiefs. They trust him. That's the player that they compared Jeremiah Trotter to. Let's see. Yeah, you're right. You're right. Where is he? Gooby, you're right. Gooby. Trotter didn't participate in the combine. You're right. You're right. But look at Nick Bolton's numbers. This is Nick Bolton's productivity. Look at this. This is Nick Bolton, right? And look, also, Nick Bolton, 5'11", 237. 5'11", 237. Played at Missouri. He was drafted in the second round, 58th overall in 2021 by the Chiefs. 2-time Super Bowl champ. If Jeremiah Trotter Jr. can provide the type of production that Nick Bolton has provided throughout his career, look at this. Nick Bolton's rookie year, 112 tackles, a fumble recovery, a defensive touchdown, 3 pass deflections. And 2022 was the big year for him. Nick Bolton in 2022, 17 games played, 17 games started, 2 interceptions, 3 pass deflections, a forced fumble, 2 sacks, 180 total tackles, 108 solo, 9 TFLs, 6 quarterback hits. I think this is what we need to aim for Jeremiah Trotter Jr. I think Nick Bolton should be the player Jeremiah Trotter Jr. should mirror. Or I think at the very least, that should be our hope. Because that's the player they compared him to right out of college. Jeremiah Trotter Jr. compared to Nick Bolton. Nick Bolton is not a big dude at all. 5'11", 235, 237, not a big guy. Jeremiah Trotter right now is 6 feet, 230. So all I'm trying to say is if you can get the production out of Jeremiah Trotter Jr. that the Chiefs have gotten out of Nick Bolton, and Nick Bolton out of his 3-year career has been primarily healthy, and in year 3 he had an injury, only played in 8 games in year 3, but years 1 through 2 he played in 16 games in year 1, 17 games year 2. I'm not even sure what the injury was for Nick Bolton. But I think a Nick Bolton-esque career is very realistic for Trotter Jr. If you can get that out of Trotter Jr. and you drafted him in the 5th round when the Chiefs drafted Nick Bolton in the 2nd, that has to be a win. That has to be a win. You're maximizing the value of the investment of the pick. Gooby says, Nick Bolton is a good comp. I forgot about him. Yes, I think that's a win because Trotter doesn't have the injury concerns like Bolton did. Interesting. I completely forgot about Nick Bolton's injury concerns coming out. Completely forgot about that. Forrest Hill says, good comparison. If he's Bolton, we good. Just need a good D-line and our secondary to cover well. Jason A-Team says, good choice, Tone. Now, Fitness Warrior has a different perspective, and this is what I'm looking for here. He says, Tone. But the difference is Nick Bolton plays with a different tenacity. You can see on tape. Nick Bolton plays more like Jeremiah Trotter Sr. Trotter Jr. goes around blocks, however. Trotter is smarter. I understand your perspective, Fitness. I understand your perspective. That is a common critique of Trotter Jr. that he doesn't really speak because he doesn't have the size to be able to go up against those big offensive linemen on the second level. So he kind of has to use technique and fundamentals and his speed and his savviness to beat guys to the spot or beat guys to the gap. So I do believe, like Crowley said, Trotter Jr. is going to have to bulk up. Facts. He's going to have to put on some more size in terms of muscle and so on and so forth. But Nick Bolton is a very versatile linebacker for the Chiefs. He does a lot for them. He's a tackling machine. He stuffs the stat sheet. I still believe Trotter Jr. should look at Nick Bolton, or at least us as supporters of the organization. I think we should look at Nick Bolton as the goal for Trotter Jr. That's even what I was thinking for Nakobe Dean. Nakobe Dean, Trotter Jr. I think, and look, we all have our very, very different opinions about Nakobe Dean. I'm not high on Nakobe Dean right now. I have no idea what he is. I can't say Nakobe Dean is a bad player. I can't say he's a good player. All I can say is Trotter Jr. and Nakobe Dean, as supporters of the Philadelphia Eagles, I feel like Nick Bolton should be the player that we hope Nakobe Dean or Jeremiah Trotter Jr. can turn into. I feel like that should be our barometer or our target for those two players, respectively. And I also think it's a realistic goal. I think it's very realistic to aim for a Nick Bolton-esque productivity level from Nakobe Dean and or Jeremiah Trotter, because I'm comparing the size and how they were looked at coming out of the draft. Trotter Jr., as Blunt says, Trotter Jr. plays special teams this year. Trotter can develop long-term to play a bigger role. Yeah, I don't think, if I'm being frank with myself, I don't think Trotter Jr. comes out right away making an immediate impact. I think Trotter Jr. needs to come in and be a special teams demon. That's what I think. I think Trotter Jr. needs to come in and be a special teams demon and be a film room junkie and be a weight room menace. Because he has to put on size. He's going to have to continue to learn the game on the NFL level. And I think he has an uphill battle with Devin White being in front of him, Nakobe Dean being in front of him. You just got Zach Bond and Oren Burks that they brought in who have a lot of experience. So it's an uphill battle for Jeremiah Trotter Jr. It's an uphill battle for him. But he's going to have to be a special teams demon. Yo, Fitness, you crazy. Ben Van Sumeren, listen, I don't mean no disrespect, but he needs to hope for a practice squad check. That's all I'm saying. He needs to hope for a practice squad check. MJS says it's so hard to judge Dean at this point. He's a disappointment at this point. But because of injury, make or break year. I agree. I do think it's a make or break year. He's entering year 3 on a 4-year rookie deal. I heard about a corner they signed. Let me see. Let me see. Because I heard about a corner they drafted. Signed. Let me see. Let's see. All right, so who is it? Let me see. Fitness Warrior said Joey Porter Jr.'s nephew. Ain't Joey Porter Jr. young as damn self? Let me see. I'm not seeing it. Do you guys know his name? What's his name, y'all? Oh, here it is. Okay. It says the Eagles have added an underdog cornerback to their roster after poaching him from the clutches of Pittsburgh. Who is he though? All right, here we go. Eagles to sign underdog cornerback after successful rookie minicamp tryout. Okay. Sean Stevens. Okay. Sean Stephens. Says here, the Philadelphia Eagles held their rookie minicamp this past weekend, spending a few days to get their new draft picks and undrafted free agents up to speed, as well as offering some tryouts to some potential hidden gems. One of those players, Sean Stephens, is reportedly set to sign with the team, according to Andrew DeCecco of Inside the Birds. It says Sean Stephens stands out at around 6 feet, 180 pounds, and spent his collegiate career at both Ferris State and West Liberty. Interestingly, he's actually the cousin of Steelers cornerback Joey Porter Jr. He was reportedly set to work out with Pittsburgh to potentially play with Porter Jr., but the Eagles were able to snatch him from their clutches. He ended 2023 He ended 2023 with 25 tackles, 8 picks, and 4 pass breakups. While the stat line definitely pops, it has to be remembered that this wasn't at a D1 level. As a result, a focus on athletic testing was important, and Steffens delivered. At Michigan State's Pro Day, Stone Steffens recorded a 4.3 40-yard dash, along with 19 bench reps and a 36.5-inch vertical leap. Wow. I like the measurables. Wow. He ran a 4.3 40 at Michigan State's Pro Day. He bench pressed. He had 19 bench press reps, lifting 225. And he had a 36.5-inch vertical leap. That's not bad. He's very athletically gifted. He has traits. He has speed. Has athleticism. 6 feet, about 180, 185 pounds. Interesting. It says the addition of another defensive back is an intriguing one given the amount of depth the Eagles have now, especially at nickel. The Birds brought Avonte Maddox back this past offseason, and Isaiah Rodgers Jr. was reinstated after missing all of last season due to an NFL gambling policy violation. Sprinkle in Zech McPherson and Tyler Hall, and you have a position loaded with potential contributors. The Eagles obviously see something in Steffens, and it will be interesting to see how he fares during OTAs and hopefully beyond. Fascinating. Very, very, very interesting prospect. Very interesting situation. But I'll say this also. The Philadelphia Eagles have a ton of bodies in the DB room. The DB room is quite literally loaded. It's loaded. Let me get this right here. All right, here we go. I'm going to look at this again. This DB room is insane. It's so many bodies. It's unheard of. Look how many DBs they have just between the corners, safeties, and it's at corner. You have Darius Slay, Quinyon Mitchell, Cooper Dejean, Kelly Ringo, Eli Ricks, Isaiah Rodgers, James Bradbury, Avonte Maddox, Josh Jobe, Tyler Hall, Zech McPherson, Mario Goodrich. You bring in Sean Steffens. And by the way, in the safety room, you got C.J. Gardner-Johnson, Reed Blankenship, Sidney Brown, Mekhi Gardner, Andre Sam, Tristan McCullum. You got Terrell Lewis as well competing. Well, I'm sorry, he's an edge. I'm sorry. There's so many. The Eagles have a grand total. They got 18 DBs on this team. 18 DBs. Gooby says Hunger Games DB edition. He also says, man, I think Eli Ricks has real talent as well. Easy to forget about him. He could go crazy at the slot corner. Fangio is known for using big slot guys. Fitness Warrior says Mario Goodrich gone. Yeah, he might be. He might be. The DB room is just so deep. It's so deep. It's a lot of guys, man. It's a lot of guys. And I'm trying to think who makes this roster, who doesn't. Obviously, Slay makes the roster. Kelly Ringo's going to make the roster. Quinyon Mitchell's going to make the roster. Cooper DeJean's going to make the roster. That's where it gets interesting. Because Avonte Maddox, he's not guaranteed to make this roster. New coaching staff. You're on a new contract that's not hurting the Eagles at all. This is an opportunity for guys like Sean Stephens, Tyler Hall, maybe Mekhi Gardner and Eli Ricks. These are opportunities. Isaiah Rodgers. Like this is insane. This is insane. I have no idea how the DB room is going to be laid out. I have no idea how this is going to. I have no idea how this pans out. But just making a quick transition before we get out of here, I'm going to ask you guys a question. You know, it's the 30-year anniversary as it pertains to when Jeffrey Lurie purchased the Philadelphia Eagles. And I want to put something on the table here. I want to put something on the table here. And I want to know what you guys think about this. So, again, 30 years ago today, the Philadelphia Eagles, 30 years ago today, the Philadelphia Eagles was purchased by Jeffrey Lurie. 30-year anniversary. These are the team's accomplishments over his tenure. In a 30-year span, the team has accumulated a 286 and 228-3 win-loss tie record. That's a 55% winning percentage. In 30 years, 18 playoff appearances, 10 NFC East titles, 7 NFC championship games, 3 Super Bowl appearances, 1 Lombardi trophy. Let me say that again. In 30 years' time, a 55% win percentage, 18 playoff appearances in 30 years, 10 NFC East titles in 30 years, 7 NFC championship appearances in 30 years, 3 Super Bowl appearances in 30 years, and 1 Lombardi trophy. I guess the reason I bring this up is because I want to ask you guys a question. And Forrest Hill says, Tone, look up the same record stats for the Cowboys over the past 30 years. No need to do that. We know what that is. They sucked. We know what that is. Inconsistent, non-existent in the playoffs. We know exactly what that is. We don't even gotta waste time on that. We're not even gonna waste time on them. Forrest Hill says 4 playoff games, 0 championship games, 1 Super. Oh man, that's funny. But let me ask you guys a question here before we get out of here. How satisfied are you guys with this level of production under Jeffrey Lurie's leadership? Because I've been on record for being dissatisfied with the amount of winning we've done over the past 30 years. Now, granted, Jeffrey Lurie did purchase a team that was dead in the water. Now, the fan base was still rabid, and we still showed up for games, but he did purchase an organization that had terrible ownership prior to, and they didn't know how to build rosters. So it took him time to flip this team into being something legitimate. I say that to say one Super Bowl in 30 years, for me, not enough. One Super Bowl in 30 years, not enough. And it's not easy to get there. I do want to make it very clear. It's not easy to get to the Super Bowl, let alone win it. It's not easy. And then when you think about over the past 24 years, when it comes to Super Bowl wins, the Chiefs, what are they? The Chiefs got 2 of them, right? Let me make sure I got that right. The Chiefs beat the Eagles. Chiefs beat the 49ers twice in Super Bowl. Three. Wow. Damn. So the Chiefs got 3 Super Bowls. The Patriots got like 7 of them over that span, or 8 of them. So 10 of those 30 years, dynasties have won the Super Bowl. And then the Ravens won it twice. The Seahawks won it once. The Colts won it once. The Steelers won it twice over the past 30 years. Giants won it twice. Buccaneers won it twice over the past 30 years. Broncos won it once over the past 30 years, I think, if I'm not mistaken. I don't want to speak out of turn. So all I'm trying to say is it's not easy to win Super Bowls. It's not easy to get there. So am I being, or have I been unfair to the Jeffrey Lurie era? If you guys have been listening to me for a while, you know that I'm greedy. And I feel like the Eagles have underachieved in the 30 years that he's owned the team. But when you take it all into consideration, what the Philadelphia Eagles used to be before him and what they are now, the Philadelphia Eagles are one of the most well-respected organizations in the league. They're one of the most winning. They're one of the most winningest teams in terms of playoff wins throughout his tenure. They had stretches where they made it to the NFC Championship year after year after year. Granted, couldn't get over the hump. They've always been in the conversation, always been in the mix. The Eagles have been good more than they've been bad. They've been relevant more than they've not been relevant. They've been competing and proving that they want to win more times than not. So am I being fair or unfair to Jeffrey Lurie if I say they've underachieved with 1 Super Bowl win in 30 years? Am I being fair? I'm willing to acknowledge if I am being unfair, but I want to check the temperature with you guys first. When you put it in perspective, it's not easy to get to a Super Bowl. It's not easy to win it. It's not easy to build Super Bowl teams. It's not easy to find quarterbacks in this league. It's not easy to hire people that can execute your vision. This is a difficult profession that they're in. But 1 Super Bowl win in 30 years, and you know what? I'm not going to back off the hill now that I think about it. The more I talk, the more I realize they have underachieved in the 30 years Jeffrey Lurie has owned the team, but not because of him. And I think that's the distinction that I have to make sure we are very aware of, right? I think the Philadelphia Eagles have underachieved in the 30 years that Jeffrey Lurie, in terms of Super Bowl success. In terms of Super Bowl success, the Philadelphia Eagles have underachieved in the 30 years Jeffrey Lurie has owned the team. But they have not underachieved because of Jeffrey Lurie's malpractice. They have not underachieved because of Jeffrey Lurie's unwillingness to spend the money. They have not underachieved because Jeffrey Lurie doesn't believe in building teams the right way. They haven't underachieved because Jeffrey Lurie hasn't been all in. So although they only have one Super Bowl win in the 30 years she's owned the team, I don't look at Jeffrey Lurie and say Jeffrey Lurie's underachieved. I say the Philadelphia Eagles have underachieved. Because when you make it to consecutive NFC championships the way they have, especially in the McNabb, Andy Reid era, when you think about how often they were knocking on the door and then they shit the bed, not wet the bed, they shit the bed. Can I blame Jeffrey Lurie for regularly building rosters that can put this team in position? So again, in the 30 years he's owned the team, Jeffrey Lurie hasn't underachieved, but this team, the personnel, the coaches have underachieved as a whole, but not the owner. Because the owner and Jeffrey Lurie, in my opinion, has proven year after year after year that he's not afraid to take risk. He's not afraid to take risk when it comes to coaching, not afraid to take risk when it comes to spending money. He has been a willing owner who's all in. There are so many owners in the NFL who do not give a fuck about winning. Nobody talks about that. Excuse me. There are so many owners in the NFL that don't give a fuck about winning. All they care about is hitting their bottom line, because owning an NFL team is a forever appreciating asset. NFL teams don't depreciate in value. They only get more valuable. And with the new TV deals and everything, these owners are going to get paid regardless of if their team wins or loses. So when you have ownership groups who are actually competitive, who actually want to win, who actually care about the organization they own, it's hard to come by in sports. There are so many ownership groups in sports who don't give a damn about winning. All they care about is owning the team, and they make their guaranteed money from the TV deals and, the league and so on and so forth, the ad revenue, all that. So I have a ton of respect and reverence for Jeffrey Lurie as an owner of the Philadelphia Eagles, because there are a handful of owners who really, really care about winning. I don't mean no disrespect, but do you guys think the Cardinals ownership cares about winning Super Bowls? No, they don't. Do you think the Chargers ownership group cares about winning Super Bowls? I personally don't. Do you guys think the Tennessee Titans ownership group knows what they're doing? No, I don't. Who else? I'm trying to think who else. Do you guys think, and I don't know, I think the Jaguars are turning over a new leaf. I think the Jags are trying to turn over a new leaf. I think they are. I don't know. You guys tell me. I think the Jags are turning over a new leaf. They want to win. That told me. I knew that because of the hiring of Doug Peterson. You know what I mean? Like, a lot of these ownership groups don't give a damn. As long as they get their money, they cool. So when I think about it from that perspective, I think Jeffrey Lurie has been a tremendous representative and face of the Philadelphia Eagles. But the team, the personnel, Carolina, good point, Jason, good point. Like, there are teams or there are organizations that if they're good, they're like, oh, we're good this year. But they're not regularly trying to stay ahead of the curve. They're not regularly trying to continue to add to the roster. They're not regularly trying to take risk about winning. The Eagles do that. The 49ers do that. Even the Cowboys care about winning to an extent. To an extent. Chiefs care about winning. The Browns care about winning. The Steelers care about winning. The Bills, the Patriots care about winning. I even think the Dolphins, to an extent, care about winning. So it's just like, I think Jeffrey Lurie's been tremendous as a representative and owner of the Philadelphia Eagles. But I think as a team, from a coaching and personnel standpoint, especially when Jeffrey Lurie has been fearless when it comes to putting the right people in place, building the roster, investing in it, not being afraid to cut the check. I think Jeffrey Lurie's been the man. But I think the team has underachieved when they've been given everything to get there. Jeffrey Lurie, you guys, once again, Jeffrey Lurie has been a good enough owner where he's helped build rosters that have put the Eagles in 7 NFC championship games in the span of 30 years. Do you know what that is? That's damn near. That's damn near every 4 years you're in the NFC championship game. Think about that. Think about that. 7 NFC championship games over the span of 30 years. You're basically in the NFC championship every 4 years. Every 4 years. So overall, man, right, 23% hit rate, exactly, 23%, 23%, 23%. Forrest Hill says, bro, that 2000 to 2005 run, that was like the early 90s Bills. Yeah, man, we fucked that money up. We messed that money up. Jason A-Team said, man, I missed those runs. I was in middle school then. Man, I was a youngin' at that time. I was at elementary school. I was a young buck at that time. Steve Ike says, thank God for Howie. Yeah, man. Jason says, 2001, I was in 4th grade. And remember 9/11, my parents came to get me from school on my way to gym class. Yeah, man, that was a crazy time. Crazy time. But overall, I give kudos to Howie Roseman, but I look at the Eagles as a whole and I say, you should have more. You've been in the position to get it done too many times, and you fucked the money up. So I can't look at Jeffrey Lurie and say he didn't do his part. He don't call plays. He don't throw the football. He don't catch footballs. He don't block. Jeffrey Lurie has proven that he wants to win. He cuts the check. He basically told Howie Roseman, Joe Banner, all those guys, hey, listen, do what you need to do. Hire who we need to win. I care about winning, and I'm willing to roll with that. But I believe this year in 2024 is Super Bowl or bust. The level of investment in that offense, the moves they made in the offseason on defense and in the draft, once again, I think the Philadelphia Eagles are a Super Bowl contender. And I'll leave it at that. I appreciate you guys for being as patient and being so locked in on the show. You guys have been tremendous. 49 people locked in at the moment on X. I appreciate my X family. Love y'all so much. Make sure y'all retweet the content. Make sure y'all like the content as well. Share it, tag it, whatever you got to do. Make sure you guys follow me on X as well. My handle is at DeShields. My last name, DeShields, at DeShields, _. So DeShields __. That's my X handle. And we got 43 people on the YouTube side. Thank y'all so much for locking in. You guys have been tremendous. Thank you so much Also to the good brothers, S. Blunt. My man donated $4 to the channel, and my man Cody donated $5 to the channel today. So I appreciate you brothers as well for investing in me, showing a lot of love, and contributing to the show as you guys always do. You guys know how I give it up, man. I appreciate the love. You guys are always tremendous. And there's so much more football to talk about, but we're going to save that for another day. I'm your guy, Tone DeShields II. Please, please, please smash that like button. Make sure you guys are subscribed to the show, especially if you're new. If you like the vibes, if you like the energy, man, please come back for tomorrow's show. It's going to be awesome, and I can't wait to see you guys next time. Like I said, my name is Tone DeShields II, and you guys were locked in on Chalk It Up Sports, where no matter if we win or if we lose, we just got to charge it to the game.